Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Hutter, and welcome to Winning with Patents. If you're a startup founder or an investor looking to make smarter decisions around IP strategy, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking about a big problem in the startup world, one that wastes money, slows growth, and can even kill promising ideas before they get off the ground. In this video, we'll be tackling the misalignment between traditional or standard patent expert advice and the lean startup model. But we won't just be highlighting this disconnect. I'll leave you with actionable guidance so you can not only avoid making the most common startup patenting mistakes, but also how you can flip the script to make patents actually work to create value for your business. Let's start with an overview of the perspective that guides the work of most patent professionals that you will meet, because if you know how somebody approaches their job, you can understand how to better work with them. Importantly, patent attorneys are trained to operate within a legal framework that was built for the type of patent applicant that is most commonly encountered, or at least was more commonly encountered by them in the past. These are established companies with real revenue streams, stable product lines, and well-defined markets. These companies know who their customers are already, so it's not that hard to serve them with exciting new products if they have competent R&D and marketing teams. In this world, the product development process is fairly linear. If you're at an established company as a member of an R&D team, you spend considerable time, often years, developing a product to introduce to your customers. As you are doing this, you have to keep everything confidential until the product is greenlit for launch, and then your company files patents to protect that product that is going to be sold. That's a world of certainty. But if you're a startup founder, your world is anything but certain. You're constantly navigating unknowns, testing hypotheses, talking to potential customers, and rapidly iterating based on feedback. Your product might change entirely within a month. Your business model is fluid. And what seems like a great idea today could be scrapped tomorrow after a few conversations with actual users. So when a patent attorney says, you should file a patent now just in case, they're applying logic from a legacy patent strategy framework that assumes you already have clarity, that you know exactly what your product is, how it works, and why people will buy it. But that's not your reality as a startup founder. And trying to follow that status quo patenting advice and file for protection too early can pull you off track. It's a bit like asking a Formula One mechanic to fix your electric scooter. Sure, both involve wheels and motion, but the tools, the context, and the stakes are completely different. A race car mechanic is trained for precision under highly specific, optimized conditions, but you're building something that needs to navigate potholes, bad weather, and unpredictable terrain on a shoestring budget. You don't need high-performance tuning. You need agility, adaptability, and advice that fits the road you're actually on. The lean startup approach flips the standard product development model on its head. Instead of spending months or years building a fully developed product in isolation, you begin with customer discovery and business model validation. You ask questions, you listen. You build small, testable versions of your idea to see if anyone actually cares enough to pay for it. The logic is clear. No customers, no company. You're not building for elegance or complexity. You're building to solve a real problem for real people in a way that they value and will pay for. And here's where the paradox of patents comes in. If you're still in the process of figuring out what you're selling, to whom, and why they'll choose you over other options, then what exactly are you trying to protect with a patent? You're trying to claim ownership over a solution that isn't even validated yet. Let me give you a hypothetical example. Imagine a startup called SensorLoft. The team starts out developing cutting-edge environmental sensors for indoor farms. Their early prototypes are compelling, technical, innovative, and, at least in theory, patentable. Excited by their invention, they go ahead and file a provisional patent application. It costs them around $15,000 between legal fees, time spent documenting everything, and filing costs. But here's the twist. After just 4 customer interviews, they learn that indoor farmers don't really need new sensors. What they're starving for is better data insights. Analytics that help them optimize water usage and crop yield. Hardware isn't the bottleneck. The real pain point is software. So what does SensorLoft do? They pivot. They shift their focus to a SaaS platform that aggregates and analyzes environmental data across different devices.
Great move for the business. But that patent they filed, now it's a relic of an idea they no longer pursue, a $15,000 insurance policy on something that no longer matters. This is the trap too many startups fall into, spending limited resources to protect a product before they've validated whether it's even worth protecting.
Filing a patent too early isn't just a legal misstep, it's a strategic business mistake. For early-stage startups, every dollar matters. That cash you're putting toward legal filings, it could be far better spent on things that actually move your business forward, like conducting customer interviews, building a minimum viable product, or testing a new sales channel. In other words, validating whether your idea is even worth protecting in the first place. And for the startup teams I have worked with over the years, money is not always the biggest impediment to patents. It's time. If you've watched my other videos, you'll understand that good protection requires the startup team to collaborate with their patent team. This is time that even the most well-oiled startups cannot spend on getting patents that won't be relevant to their business in a few months. Let me say this clearly. Your product will change. That's not a possibility. That's a certainty. You'll pivot, refine, iterate. Features will be cut. Value props will evolve. Entire customer segments may get dropped. But your patent application, it doesn't change. Once filed, it's frozen in time. It's based on the assumptions and designs you had on that day, not the business you'll become 6 months from now. And if your company grows the way it should, adapting to the market and learning from customers, there's a very real chance that your filed patent no longer describes what you're actually offering. At that point, what do you have? Not a strategic asset, not a moat. You have expensive paperwork, a document that cost thousands of dollars and weeks of attention, and no longer aligns with your product or your market. It's like buying a tailored suit before you've finished growing. It might have looked great at the time, but now it doesn't fit, and it's too costly to fix. You're stuck with it. It may look great in your closet, but it's nothing more than a nice-looking, expensive thing that you can't actually use. From this perspective, filing for patent protection early doesn't give your business an advantage. Rather, it can leave your startup exposed, not just legally, but competitively. Because while you were focused on protecting an unproven concept, your competitors may have been spending that same time talking to customers and closing deals. This brings us to a deeper structural issue that's rarely acknowledged, but after my 30 years in the business, can say is true, and something that startup founders need to understand before they have their first conversation with a patent lawyer. Patent law is built on a foundation of secrecy. It assumes a product is largely developed behind closed doors, in a controlled environment, by a team that keeps everything confidential until the moment of launch. Here's the proof. There are dozens of court rulings that need to be navigated to confirm that a patent is not invalid because of experimental use. In these cases, external experimentation is a problem to be solved for, whereas for lean startups, this is the state of existence. In other words, the legal system rewards those who can protect their ideas until they're fully formed, fully built, and ready to be sold. But this is completely at odds with how successful startups actually operate. If you've spent any time in the lean startup world, you've heard the mantra, get out of the building, talk to customers, share your idea early, test it in the real world, learn from feedback, and adapt. The sooner you do this, the more likely you are to build something people actually want and are willing to pay for. Here's the tension. In the world of patent law, public disclosure, even something as simple as discussing your concept on a forum or showing a prototype at a meetup, can limit or completely destroy your ability to file a patent later. That creates a very real and painful dilemma for founders. Do you protect the idea and stay secret, or do you share the idea and risk losing the ability to patent it? Some founders, fearing legal exposure, choose secrecy. They go stealth. No public website, no pitch decks shared outside NDAs, no demos, no blog posts, just a hush-hush, keep it under wraps operation until launch. Let's talk about the proverbial elephant in the room. Most stealth startups fail. And not because their technology is weak, not because their team wasn't smart or hardworking enough, and probably not because their patents weren't filed on time. They fail because they never talked to enough customers. They didn't gather the real-world insights needed to validate whether their product actually solved a meaningful problem, or if the market even cared. By the time they emerged from stealth, it was often too late. The product was built, the money was spent, the patent was filed, but the market had already moved on. Or worse, The market never existed to begin with. So the question becomes, how do you reconcile these two opposing forces? On one side, a legal system that says, stay silent. On the other, a startup methodology that says, speak early, speak often. The answer isn't choosing one or the other. It's learning how to walk the tightrope between both worlds. And that starts with understanding how to talk to customers without giving away your secret sauce.
So, what does walking the tightrope between the patent laws and lean startup necessity look like for you as a startup founder?
Of course, you've probably heard that no product idea survives first contact with the customer. Startups iterate constantly. You're not operating in a controlled lab. You're in a dynamic marketplace. At some point, you get a signal from your customer discovery that you may be onto something. You start to get validation that there may be a product market fit brewing, and you start to hone in on that signal to find out more. And it's when that more starts showing itself to you that you may be entering the neighborhood where patents may be relevant to your startup. Imagine a startup like BrewEQ developing a smart device for home brewers. Early conversations with hobbyists reveal they're not interested in hardware, but would pay for community features and shared brew profiles. Pivot. The team learns more, followed by clear identification of product market fit. Start thinking about patenting. Only then should BrewIQ's leadership start thinking about patenting.
Let's not be too hard on patent lawyers.
I certainly have been one for more years than I want to admit. Unquestionably, patent lawyers genuinely want to help their clients. We're trained professionals trying to protect your innovation, and we take that responsibility seriously. But here's the key issue. The incentives patent lawyers deal with in their business of law are fundamentally different from yours as a founder. From the legal side, the fear isn't that your startup won't succeed. It's that 5 years down the line, you'll look back and say, why didn't we file a patent on that? So to lean into their training that they need to protect their clients' inventions, not help their clients build a successful business, many lawyers hedge their bets and default to this advice. Let's file now, just to be safe. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable, cautious, responsible.
But for a startup operating on limited resources and constantly shifting assumptions, that kind of conservative legal advice can be dangerously expensive, because just to be safe usually translates to spending thousands of dollars and redirecting your startup team's limited time and attention toward a process that assumes your product is already finalized and your market is clearly defined.
But for a startup operating on limited resources and constantly shifting assumptions, that kind of conservative legal advice can be dangerously expensive. Most of my startup clients have heard enough about patents to be concerned about what they can and can't say before they've filed a patent application. And admittedly, there's a lot of confusion around what information you should and shouldn't share during customer discovery. Unfortunately, many founders either overshare, exposing too much technical detail, or undershare, missing out on valuable insights. Let's be clear, talking to customers about their needs is not only safe, it's essential, but you have to be thoughtful about how you talk. There's a big difference between saying, we've developed a machine learning algorithm that dynamically clusters real-time user behavior to optimize workflow automation, and asking, would it be useful if a tool could automatically suggest ways to streamline your workflow based on how your team works? The first one discloses the how, the mechanics, the secret sauce. The second explores the what, the value proposition, from the customer's perspective. One potentially jeopardizes your ability to patent. The other helps you validate whether it's even worth building. That nuance matters a lot, and it's something too few startup founders are coached on. Good patent strategy isn't about staying silent. It's about speaking strategically, asking the right questions in a way that informs your business without exposing your IP. And that takes practice, awareness, and yes, advisors who actually understand how startups work. If the patent world is not aligned with the needs of startups, what's the path forward for a founder? The truth is, startup founders must learn to adapt to the patent system as it exists today, because the system isn't going to bend to fit the fast, iterative, customer-driven nature of early-stage ventures. Patent law was built decades ago for industries where products were stable and cycles were long. and that's not changing anytime soon. That doesn't mean startups are doomed to be second-class citizens in the patent world. Far from it. But startup founders must accept that the limitations are real, and they need to work to make patent value lemonade out of the lemons served to them by the patent system. This means that you, as a startup founder or an investor in startups, need to approach patents on your terms, using timing and customer validation as your lodestar. That starts with doing robust customer discovery, not in spite of the patent system, but in alignment with it. You can and should talk to potential customers. You should ask questions, float ideas, and test assumptions. But you must do it without revealing the core of your innovation, the technical or structural detail that makes your solution unique. This is where smart founders thrive. They know what to say, and just as importantly, what not to say. And as your discovery work gives you signals, interest, need, willingness to pay, you build an MVP, a lightweight version of your product designed to test whether your concept can generate real revenue. Not theoretical value, actual customer behavior. But here's the key. You hold off on filing your patent until you know what's working. Let's look at a hypothetical example. ShopMirror is a startup working on virtual try-on technology for small e-commerce stores. Cool tech, lots of potential IP. But instead of rushing to patent their computer vision algorithm or UX design, they spend the first 2 months doing deep customer discovery. They talk to over 30 boutique owners. They learn what actually matters to these customers isn't the realism of the virtual try-on. It's reducing returns, increasing basket size, and creating social proof. Those insights lead ShopMirror to pivot from an advanced 3D modeling platform to a lighter weight augmented photo filter tool that integrates easily with existing e-commerce backends. They validate this version with a few pilot stores. Conversion rates go up, return rates go down. That's when they know this is the product. This is the direction. And that's when it's the right time to file. Now, the patent application they submit covers a validated revenue-generating product, not an early concept based on speculation. It aligns with where the business is going, not where it started. And that makes all the difference, because timing is everything when it comes to patents. It's not about filing early. It's about file at the right time for your startup. When you file too soon, you risk wasting money and locking in protection for something that doesn't match your final product. When you wait too long, you risk losing rights if you disclose too much publicly. But when you file at the right moment, after validation, when the core offering is clear and the market response is measurable, that's when your patent becomes a real business asset, not just a legal document, but a strategic tool for your business. What can you do right now to align your patent strategy with how startups really work? Here's a focused playbook. 1. Accept the mismatch and use it to your advantage. Patent law wasn't designed for startups. It favors certainty, not experimentation. But once you recognize that, you gain power. You stop trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and start making decisions that support your actual business model. 2. Find the right experts, not just any patent attorney. Not every patent lawyer understands startups. You need someone who gets customer discovery, pivots, and early traction, not just inventions. If they don't understand your startup process, their advice could slow you down or misguide you. 3, use customer discovery tools and use them wisely. Talking to potential customers is essential, but don't reveal your technical secret sauce. Keep the conversation focused on their problems, not your solution. Ask, what's frustrating about your current process, rather than, here's how our tech works. The goal is to validate, not expose. 4, stay in control. Legal advice is just that, advice. Lawyers are there to support your decisions, not make them for you. If someone pushes you to file a patent application before you've validated product market fit, push back. Legal protection shouldn't come at the cost of business momentum. 5, know the signal and file when the time is right. Define the milestone that tells you it's time to protect your IP. Maybe it's your first paying customer. Maybe it's a consistent conversion rate. Whatever it is, make it part of your roadmap, not a reaction to fear or pressure. And finally, remember this. Let your business strategy lead your patent strategy always. If you focus on solving a real problem and building something people actually want, patents can become a powerful lever. But if you file too soon, you risk protecting something that doesn't matter. Patents don't create value on their own. Customers do. So build for them first. Protect what matters when it matters, and keep your eye on the big picture, building a viable business that serves its customers with a scalable product that creates sustainable revenue streams at a profit. To wrap up, if you're building a startup, remember this: you're not just creating a product, you're innovating your business model, your customer base, and your go-to-market strategy. Filing patents without hitting the lean startup markers of success is like putting locks on the doors of a house that hasn't been built yet. But if you build wisely, understand your market, and know when and what to protect, your patents can become real strategic assets. Remember, you're not playing the same game as the Fortune 500, so don't follow their patent playbook. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more insights on how to make IP work for real startups. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep winning with patents.